But the 99% who usually end up getting it and applying it and see the benefit of it,
Yes.
are there some moments which gave you the aha that,
Oh,
yes,
yes.
this is the path that I need to be on?
Oh, yes. Many, many. There were many. My very first success story, it's a research paper on the website where a senior citizen, a teacher above 60, who was not a teacher before that, she was the needlework teacher, a dining hall manager, and therefore the children looked upon her as one pleasant, loving grandma. She was suddenly asked to teach environmental studies, EVS, to grades 4 and 5. And it's a very free school, it's an alternative school, residential one. So the children would openly tell her, "You can't teach us, Akka. You're a needlework teacher, Akka." They would tell her straight. Plus, she's a very soft-tempered person. She's not a strict person. So the children rode roughshod over her. Her classes were a merry mess, and she didn't know how to manage them. So when I was asked by her principal to help her do action research, I asked her, "What is your action research problem?" She said, "To make my EVS classes very exciting, make them love the subject." I thought to myself, I think there's something you have to do before that, but I didn't tell her. I said, okay, I wrote it down. Next step is to analyze the issue. How are you going to do this? Within 10 minutes of my asking her questions to analyze, she said, no, 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 Neeraja, that's not my problem. My problem first is classroom management. So once she did that, she did action research on classroom management. It's a long story, you have to read the paper. Then she changed her action research problem to, okay, now that I can manage my class, I'm going to make EVS more exciting. And then she was a transformed teacher. In 4 to 5 months, she was a transformed teacher. The same kids who said, "Akka, you can't teach EVS," they said, "Akka, will you come with us to the next grade also when we get promoted? We want you to, Akka, we miss you, Akka." This was the cons. In the dining hall, I would have kids say, "I love Ratna class. She's so interesting. It's so exciting." The same children who were earlier taking her for a ride. So there have been many such true
Okay.
stories.
And when a teacher signs up for this, is it a course for this long or a specific period? How
Yeah,
do
so
the four stages get divided?
Yeah, so that's a good question because it's subjective. It depends on the action research problem they choose. So
Hmm.
I tell them that's an average of 4 to 6 months. It may be less, it may be more. It depends on what you want to crack. So
Hmm.
if there are teachers who've been like headmistress or some semi-administrative role, they choose overarching issues,
Yeah.
like I want to improve the school discipline in middle school,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
I want to bring about a reading culture. So
Correct.
these are not things which one person can solve. They
Yeah.
have to enroll other members, so that takes time.
Hmm.
But people like what I said, Ratna, the teacher, she had a
Hmm.
very localized issue with her class. She did it in 4 months. She did dramatic transformation in 4 months.
Okay.
So they
Okay.
sign up knowing that we don't know yet how long it will take, but roughly 4 to 6 months.
Okay. And in the process of these 4 to 6 months, you work with them every day, weekly, fortnightly, or
Yeah,
are there assignments on how do you work with the teacher
yeah.
to
So that's interesting.
individualize the whole thing?
So the way I do it is we have two face-to-face meetings.
Okay.
Thanks to pandemic, mostly online. Before pandemic, it used to be one face-to-face or offline if it was out of Bangalore. Because in Bangalore, it could be two. Okay. And in these meetings, I just find out where they are, what they are doing, and I ask all the questions I want to ask. Thereafter, between those meetings and after, they send me 1 or 2 emails in answer to my questions, what they're doing. So I have my fingers on the pulse of what they're doing. That's all.
Okay. So as and when they want anything clarified, they write to you and
Yes,
then you get
yes,
onto a session.
yes.
Okay. Okay. So now that you mentioned pandemic,
Yeah,
for a lot of us, the pandemic was a reflective space where we had to pause what we are doing, not by choice,
yes.
but okay. So for a lot of us, the pandemic was one space where we had to pause what we were doing, not by choice, but we were forced to do it.
Yes,
A lot of lessons we took back for life. I don't know how many of us remember most of it.
yes.
But for you, Neerja,
Yeah.
how did the pandemic treat you? What were your reflective moments?
So it was a huge reflective moment. Uh, See, prior to the pandemic, as I told you, I would go to schools and sell my wares.
Yeah.
And principals who were willing to take, even some of them would say, you know, I invest in a teacher's development today, and that teacher leaves me tomorrow. It's a waste for me. And I would have no answer.
Mm.
Now, the pandemic struck and we didn't know what hit us. And that first lockdown was like a shock for everybody. And I felt, because my yoga instructor, we were loving her yoga classes, she immediately offered free online yoga, you know. And that was like such a generous act. I thought, wow, she's giving us her wonderful yoga instruction free online. I thought, what can I offer free? You know, I should also do something free. And I said, the only thing I know what to do is to help teachers, you know, develop their. So I said, okay, let me offer a course which I once offered called Reflective Writing for Teachers. Let me develop an online version and let me offer it free. So I just posted on Facebook and LinkedIn on my website, 10 seats available, free seats for 10 teachers, reflective on writing for teachers. Immediately 10 people signed up. And because it was the beginning of the lockdown, everyone was in a tense state. So the course had a very intense version that time. We would have a half-hour session today online, then tomorrow would be a holiday, but holiday meaning they had to do the homework that I gave them today. And then the next day we'd meet. So every alternate day we met for half an hour over a period of like 10 days or something. So it was a very intense version of the course, but it was such a hit that after that, I have managed to run 11 paid versions of the course. I discovered in the pandemic that teachers are willing to pay for their own development. I don't have to route it through principals. That was
Okay.
a huge shift.
Okay. And when we are talking about the community per se, the teaching community, teachers face, especially
Yes,
now,
yes,
with the student community, which doesn't actually respect the teachers.
yes,
There are a lot of moments for a lot of teachers wondering whether teaching is worth all the
yes, yes, yes,
trauma. In fact,
yes,
more than students, I think
yes,
teachers are going through trauma.
yes,
You must be facing a lot of such teachers who come and share such moments with you.
yes.
Where is the gap? I would call it gap, Nirja. Is it in the parenting? Is it in the generation? Is it in society that today the teaching community is not as respected as they should be?
So you're asking me something which is very close to my heart because I'm one of those who gets very angry on Teachers' Day because I say on that one day they are made big
Yeah.
hype about teachers. The rest of the year they are looked down upon. And I still remember when I was a kid, my father, the way he spoke of his teachers, there was such respect, such
Yes.
awe.
Yeah.
And I remember his, because my father studied in the British era. His British teacher came home for dinner one day. You know, he was an old man by then. And I remember the respect with which my father treated him. So the complete shift from that era to today. If a parent wants their child to be a teacher, it's a very rare parent. You know, it's the last profession people choose. So I think it's a lot of things. I cannot put my finger on due to one thing, but mainly it's the collective worldview and the values that we hold today, which is that money and power are what matter. And in the days of my parents, I think it was scholarship and learning and wisdom that mattered.